Are you tired of fighting against life? Here's the key to finding peace. Life has a funny way of teaching us lessons, doesn't it? The harder we try to control every detail, the timing, the responses, the outcomes, the more we end up feeling frustrated, exhausted, and out of sync with everything around us. How often have you caught yourself planning every step, believing that with a little more effort, things will finally fall into place? What if I told you the complete opposite is true? Imagine this. What if the moment you stop forcing, stop gripping onto every little thing and simply start trusting, that's when everything begins to flow effortlessly? It's not about giving up, but understanding where your real power lies. It's about shifting your mindset and letting go of the need for control. Centuries ago, the Stoics, philosophers who mastered the art of inner peace, taught us this very thing. Marcus Aurelius, a prominent Stoic, once wrote about the importance of accepting life as it comes and how fighting against reality is a waste of energy. He understood that resistance only causes more suffering. The true battle lies within us, in how we train our minds to focus on what we can shape and release the rest. So today, let's dive into a mindset shift, a transformation that will change how you approach success, relationships, and ultimately, your peace of mind. Have you ever felt like no matter what you do, life just doesn't seem to go your way? There's a reason for that. You may be clinging too tightly to things that were never meant to be controlled. If you're constantly stressed, feeling anxious, or stuck in frustration, this video will give you a perspective shift that might just change everything. This isn't just another self-help video. This is about something deeper. It's about living with true confidence, moving through life with calm and certainty instead of stress and anxiety. If you stick with me until the end, you'll walk away with a completely new outlook on how to achieve your goals in life without desperately chasing them. But before we dive deeper, I'd like to ask for a small favor. If you appreciate the message we're sharing here, hit that subscribe button. It only takes a second, but it helps spread this important content to more people who need it. Let's get into it. We spend so much of our time obsessing over the results we want. We wait for that job offer. We hope that relationship works out. We stress about whether our efforts will finally pay off. We tell ourselves, if I work just a little harder, push a little more, then I can make it happen. But what happens when we do that? The more we cling to a specific outcome, the more anxious we become. The process itself stops feeling fulfilling, and our happiness becomes completely dependent on things we can't control. That's where we trap ourselves. The Stoics understood this concept so well. Epictetus, another great Stoic philosopher, taught that our suffering doesn't come from what happens to us, but from our attachment to what we want to happen. He said, do not seek for things to happen the way you want them to. This is the key to finding true peace. So let go and trust that things will unfold as they are meant to. Continuing from where we left off, let's now dive deeper into the power of detachment and how it can transform every area of your life. Imagine this: instead of tying your happiness to a specific outcome, you choose to focus on the process itself, the journey, not the destination. The key here is realizing that your happiness doesn't have to be tied to how things turn out. Instead, you can find fulfillment in what you can control: your actions, your discipline, and your mindset. Think about an artist working on a masterpiece. If they're fixated on making every brushstroke perfect, constantly worrying about how their work will be judged, they'll struggle to find that creative flow. They'll be stuck in their head, unable to create freely. But the moment they let go of the pressure to get everything just right and simply immerse themselves in the act of painting, something magical happens. The work becomes effortless. And ironically, it's when they detach from the final result that they create their best art. This principle isn't just for artists, it applies to all aspects of life. Whether it's work, personal growth, or relationships, when you stop obsessing over how things must turn out, you open yourself up to the joy of the process. This is especially true in relationships. Have you ever seen someone trying so hard to impress another person? Their energy comes across as needy, almost desperate. It feels forced, right? And what happens? It tends to push people away. But when someone is truly confident, comfortable in their own skin, not consumed by a need for a particular outcome, they attract others naturally. Why? Because they're not operating from a place of fear. They trust that whatever is meant to happen will happen. That's the power of detachment. Now let's talk about success. So many of us treat life like a rigid checklist. Graduate by this age, earn this much money, get married, reach this level of success. And when things don't go according to plan, it can feel like a personal failure. You may spiral into self-doubt, feeling like you've missed your chance. But here's the truth: success isn't a straight path. It's filled with twists, setbacks, and unexpected opportunities. If you're too attached to a specific outcome, you might miss out on an even better opportunity that life is trying to bring your way. Take a moment right now. Ask yourself, what am I holding on to too tightly? What goal, expectation, or outcome is causing me unnecessary stress? Now imagine what would happen if you just let go a little. Not giving up, but trusting that whatever happens, you'll be okay. That's detachment. It doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop needing things to go a certain way in order to find peace. So how do you practice this in your everyday life? First, remind yourself daily that outcomes are beyond your control. The only thing you can control is your effort, your discipline, and your mindset. Second, shift your thinking. Instead of saying, I need this to happen, change your perspective to, I trust that whatever happens will be for my growth. And finally, focus on the present moment. The more you immerse yourself in the now, the less power the future holds over you. Life constantly throws challenges our way. Some days everything flows effortlessly, and other days it feels like the universe is against you. But the key difference between those who crumble under pressure and those who thrive isn't luck, it's mindset. The way you think shapes how you experience life. If you don't learn to master your mind will master you. You can't always control what happens around you, the economy, other people's actions, or unexpected obstacles. But you can control how you respond. And that's where real power lies, when you shift your mindset from reacting to responding. As we continue exploring the power of mindset, let's dive into how our thoughts shape our experiences and how we can train ourselves to embrace challenges with strength and resilience. Everything changes when you realize that the greatest weapon we have against stress is the ability to choose our thoughts. This idea, as shared by the psychologist William James, the father of modern psychology, holds a powerful truth. You don't have to believe every thought that enters your mind. You don't have to let every difficult moment define you. Instead, you can train yourself to reframe situations, to step back and view them from a fresh perspective. Let's imagine a scenario. You're facing a tough time at work. You keep making mistakes, your boss is breathing down your neck, and you feel like you're failing. One way to approach this is to think, I'm terrible at this. I'll never get better. Maybe I'm just not good enough. That's a fixed mindset, and it traps you in self-doubt, making it harder to move forward. But what if you change that thought? What if you said, instead, I'm learning. Every mistake is teaching me something. The pressure I feel is helping me grow. That's a growth mindset, and it transforms struggles into opportunities for improvement. The Stoics deeply believed that every challenge is an opportunity to practice virtues like patience, resilience, and wisdom. Seneca, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, once said, "Difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body." Think about that for a moment. Every struggle, every setback, every moment of frustration is actually training you to be stronger, just like lifting weights. If you never push yourself, how can you build strength? The same is true for your mind. But let's be honest, mastering your mindset doesn't happen overnight. It takes daily practice. One simple way to begin: pay attention to your inner dialogue. Are you constantly feeding yourself thoughts of fear, doubt, and negativity? Or are you training yourself to see opportunities to reframe situations and stay calm in the face of uncertainty? Your mind is like a garden. What you plant is what grows. If you plant seeds of fear and anxiety, those will take root. But if you plant seeds of strength, clarity, and resilience, those will flourish instead. Another key way to strengthen your mindset is to train yourself to stay in the present. So much of our stress comes from obsessing over the past or worrying about the future. But the only thing you can truly control is the present moment. The next time you feel overwhelmed, ask yourself, what can I do right now to move me forward? That one simple question can snap you out of panic and bring you back to what really matters. Taking action, even if it's just a small step. Patience is one of the hardest things to practice, especially when you're working towards something important. You've put in the effort, done everything right, and yet nothing seems to be happening. Frustrating, isn't it? The world tells us that success should come quickly, that if we're not seeing instant results, we must be doing something wrong. But the truth is, life doesn't operate on our schedule. It moves according to its own rhythm, and rushing the process often leads to disappointment. The Stoics understood this deeply. Epictetus once said, "No great thing is created suddenly." Think about that. Anything truly valuable, wisdom, strength, success, takes time to develop. Just like you can't force a tree to grow faster by pulling on its branches, you can't force life to give you what you want before the time is right. There is an order to things. And when you learn to trust that timing, you free yourself from so much unnecessary stress. Imagine a young artist who dreams of making a name for themselves. They work tirelessly, pouring their heart into their craft, but they aren't getting the recognition they desire. At this point, they have two choices. They can either become frustrated, lose faith and give up, or they can trust that every brushstroke, every piece of work is preparing them for something greater, even if they can't see it yet. Those who trust the process keep going, and in time, their patience pays off. So when life feels slow, when things aren't moving as quickly as you'd like, remember, trust the process. Keep going and know that everything is unfolding as it should. As we continue our journey into the wisdom of the Stoics, let's take a moment to reflect on the nature of patience and the powerful difference between chasing and attracting. Eventually, with time and patience, they find themselves exactly where they're meant to be. Isn't it fascinating how the universe works that way? We live in a culture that thrives on instant gratification, fast food, fast information, fast success. We've been conditioned to believe that if something doesn't happen quickly, it's simply not worth waiting for. But the truth is, some things require time. Relationships, personal growth, mastering a skill, these all demand patience. Socrates once said, "To do is to be." This means that growth is found not just in the outcome, but in the process itself. If you're always focused on when something will happen, you miss out on who you are becoming along the way. Imagine that you could be growing and evolving right now, and yet if you're too focused on the end result, you might not even notice it. So how do you stay patient when it feels like nothing is happening? The Stoics would say, focus on what's in your control. You can't control timing, but you can control your actions. You can keep showing up. You can keep putting in the work. You can keep growing as a person, trusting that if something is meant for you, it will come not a second too early or too late. One of the greatest lessons Stoicism teaches is the power of acceptance. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Accept the things to which fate binds you and love the people with whom fate brings you together." Instead of resisting life's timing, learn to embrace it. If things aren't happening as fast as you want, maybe it's because you're still in the process of becoming the person who is ready for them. Think about it. Have you ever noticed that when you desperately chase something, it always seems to move further away? Whether it's a job, a relationship, or even success itself, the more frantic and needy your energy, the more things seem to slip through your fingers. It's almost like the universe senses desperation and responds by pulling back. But when you act with purpose, with calm confidence, everything starts to align naturally. There's a powerful difference between chasing and attracting. The Stoics understood this deeply. Epictetus once said, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." In other words, before you act, be clear on why you're acting. Desperate action comes from fear. Fear of missing out, fear of failure, fear of not being enough. But purposeful action comes from clarity and strength. When you know who you are and what you stand for, your actions become more deliberate, more grounded. Let's take an example. Imagine two people searching for a job. The first person is desperate. They send out applications everywhere, applying for jobs they don't even want, panicking over every rejection. Their energy is scattered, anxious, and uncertain. The second person, however, is focused. They know their strengths. They take time to craft meaningful applications and prepare, but they don't obsess over immediate results. Who do you think is more likely to get hired? It's the calm, confident, and strategic person, not the one acting from fear. This principle applies to relationships too. If you enter a relationship out of desperation, seeking validation, fearing loneliness, it often leads to disappointment. But when you approach relationships with self-respect and confidence, you attract healthier, more fulfilling connections. People are drawn to those who are secure in themselves, not those who are grasping for attention. Aristotle spoke of eudaimonia, a state of living with purpose and fulfillment. He believed that true happiness comes not from chasing external things, but from aligning your actions with your virtues and values. Act with wisdom, integrity, and purpose, and let the outcomes take care of themselves. When you move with intention rather than panic, you start making better decisions. You stop wasting time on things that don't align with your true goals. Think of a seasoned chess player versus a beginner. The beginner reacts impulsively, making moves out of fear and uncertainty. But the experienced player, they move with strategy, patience, and intention, knowing the game is won over time. As we continue our exploration of patience and intentional living, let's dive deeper into how clarity, confidence, and letting go can shift the way we approach life. The expert, however, plays with patience, seeing the bigger picture and making deliberate choices. Life works the same way. If you're constantly reacting out of fear, you'll end up making decisions that lead to more chaos and confusion. But if you step back, act with clarity, and trust the process, you move closer to the life you actually want. So how do you shift from acting out of desperation to acting with purpose? First, get clear on your why. Ask yourself, am I doing this because I truly want it or because I'm afraid of not having it? Understanding your true motivations is key to making choices that align with your goals. Once you have clarity on your reasons, slow down. Desperation rushes decisions while purpose moves with patience. Instead of making hasty choices from a place of fear, give yourself the time to reflect and choose wisely. And most importantly, trust yourself. You don't need to force things into place. When you act with confidence and alignment, opportunities will naturally come your way. Seneca once said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." A lot of desperation comes from imagined fears. What if I don't succeed? What if I fail? But the truth is, you are stronger than you think. You don't need to scramble for what's meant for you. Instead, act with purpose, move with confidence, and watch how life starts to align in your favor. The power of letting go and trusting the process is a game changer. Have you ever felt exhausted from trying to control everything? You plan, you push, you strategize, but somehow life still doesn't unfold the way you expect. It's frustrating, isn't it? You try to make people act a certain way to fit circumstances into place and predict every possible outcome, only to find yourself feeling more stressed and less in control than ever. The harder you grip, the more things slip through your fingers. But here's the paradox. The moment you let go, life starts to work in your favor. The Stoics understood this deeply. Epictetus said freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. Think about that. True freedom doesn't come from controlling everything around you. It comes from letting go of the need to control. The more energy you spend trying to manage things that aren't yours to manage, other people's opinions, the future, the past, the more you drain yourself. When you shift your focus to what you can control, your thoughts, your actions, your responses, you reclaim your power. Take relationships, for example. Have you ever tried to change someone? Maybe you wanted a friend, a partner, or a family member to behave differently, to be more understanding, more supportive, more aligned with your expectations. But no matter how much you tried, they stayed the same. That's because people are not ours to control. We can communicate, we can set boundaries, we can choose who we allow into our lives, but we can't force someone to change. This lesson is vital. When we focus on controlling what we can ourselves, our mindset, our actions, we free up our energy and stop wasting time trying to change the uncontrollable. Life has a way of flowing when we allow it to, and often the less we try to control, the more we align with our true path. As we continue exploring the power of letting go, let's delve into how releasing control can bring you closer to the life you desire. When you release that need for control, you free yourself from frustration and allow relationships and opportunities to unfold naturally. The same applies to success. So many people believe that if they just push harder, they'll reach their goals faster. But there's a critical difference between effort and control. While you should absolutely work toward your goals, obsessing over every tiny detail, stressing about timing and fearing failure only create resistance. Seneca once said, "Fate leads the willing and drags along the reluctant." In other words, when you fight against the natural flow of life, you create unnecessary struggle. But when you trust the process and focus on what's in your power, things unfold with much greater ease. Imagine you're preparing for an important interview. You've done the research, practiced your responses, and feel ready. But then instead of trusting in your preparation, you begin overthinking. What if they ask me a question I don't know? What if I mess up? What if I don't get the job? Suddenly, your energy shifts from confidence to anxiety. You walk into the interview nervous, tense, and second-guessing yourself. That need for control is actually making you perform worse. But what if you took a deep breath, reminded yourself that you've done the work, and let go of the outcome? By walking into the interview, relaxed, present, and at ease, you're far more likely to succeed. So how do you start letting go of control in your life? First, recognize what is and isn't within your power. The Stoics believed in the dichotomy of control. There are things we can influence and things we can't. Wasting energy on the uncontrollable only leads to frustration. Second practice, acceptance. Life won't always go according to plan, but that doesn't mean it's going wrong. Sometimes detours lead to better destinations. Embrace the unexpected and trust that it's all part of the process. Finally, build trust not just in life, but in yourself. Trust that you can handle whatever comes your way, even if it's not what you expected. Life isn't always about the exact outcome we envision, but about how we handle the journey. Have you ever noticed that some people seem to attract success, opportunities, and even happiness effortlessly? It's not because they have some secret advantage, it's their mindset. The way they think, how they carry themselves, and how they see the world creates a reality where abundance flows to them naturally. On the other hand, people who constantly focus on what they lack seem to struggle endlessly no matter how hard they work. It's not about luck. It's about the energy you bring into your life. The Stoics understood this long before modern psychology confirmed it. Epictetus said wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. True abundance isn't about hoarding money, collecting achievements, or endlessly chasing more. It's about realizing that you already have everything you need to live a fulfilled life. When you stop operating from a mindset of scarcity, believing you never have enough, you make room for more to come to you naturally. Imagine two people walking into the same room. The first person is focused on everything they don't have. They compare themselves to others, feel like they're falling behind, and believe that success is always out of reach. Their energy is heavy, their words are filled with doubt, and they unknowingly repel opportunities. The second person, however, walks in with the belief that they have enough. Enough knowledge, enough skills, enough opportunities ahead of them. They engage confidently, build connections naturally, and end up walking away with new possibilities. The only difference, one person was living in scarcity while the other was living in abundance. And it's not just about money or success, it applies to relationships, happiness, and even time. If you believe there's never enough love, never enough time, never enough good people in the world, then your mind will always look for proof of that belief. But if you shift your focus, you'll start seeing opportunities everywhere. By embracing an abundance mindset, you open yourself to a world of possibilities. This is how life works when you let go of control, trust the process, and believe that what's meant for you will come naturally. As we dive deeper into the power of perception and letting go, let's explore how shifting your focus can dramatically change your reality. When you release the need to control everything, you free yourself from frustration and allow things, whether relationships, opportunities, or success, to unfold naturally. This principle is powerful in all aspects of life. Many people believe that if they just push harder, they'll reach their goals faster. But there's a big difference between effort and control. While it's essential to work towards your goals, obsessing over every tiny detail, stressing about timing and fearing failure only create resistance. Seneca once said, "Fate leads the willing and drags along the reluctant." In other words, when you fight against the natural flow of life, you create unnecessary struggle. But when you trust the process and focus on what's in your power, things unfold with much greater ease. Imagine you're preparing for an important interview. You've done the research, practiced your responses, and feel prepared. But then, instead of trusting in your preparation, you begin to overthink. What if they ask me a question I don't know? What if I mess up? What if I don't get the job? Suddenly your energy shifts from confidence to anxiety. You walk into the interview nervous, tense, and second-guessing yourself. That need for control actually makes you perform worse. But what if you took a deep breath, reminded yourself that you've done the work, and let go of the outcome? When you walk into the interview, relaxed, present, and at ease, you're much more likely to succeed. So how do you start letting go of control in your life? First, recognize what is and isn't within your power. The Stoics taught us the dichotomy of control. There are things we can influence and things we can't. Wasting energy on the uncontrollable only leads to frustration. Second practice, acceptance. Life won't always go according to plan, but that doesn't mean it's going wrong. Sometimes detours lead to better destinations. Embrace the unexpected and trust that it's all part of the process. Finally, build trust not just in life, but in yourself. Trust that you can handle whatever comes your way, even if it's not what you expected. Life isn't always about the exact outcome we envision, but about how we handle the journey. Have you ever noticed how some people seem to attract success, opportunities, and even happiness effortlessly? It's not because they have some secret advantage, it's their mindset. The way they think, how they carry themselves, and how they see the world creates a reality where abundance flows to them naturally. On the other hand, people who constantly focus on what they lack seem to struggle endlessly, no matter how hard they work. It's not about luck, it's about the energy you bring into your life. The Stoics understood this long before modern psychology confirmed it. Epictetus said, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." True abundance isn't about hoarding money, collecting achievements, or endlessly chasing more. It's about realizing that you already have everything you need to live a fulfilled life. When you stop operating from a mindset of scarcity, believing you never have enough, you make room for more to come to you naturally. Imagine two people walking into the same room. The first person is focused on everything they don't have. They compare themselves to others, feel like they're falling behind, and believe that success is always out of reach. Their energy is heavy, their words are filled with doubt, and they unknowingly repel opportunities. The second person, however, walks in with the belief that they have enough knowledge, enough skills, enough opportunities ahead of them. They engage confidently, build connections naturally, and end up walking away with new possibilities. The only difference, one person was living in scarcity while the other was living in abundance. And it's not just about money or success, it applies to relationships, happiness, and even time. If you believe there's never enough love, never enough time, never enough good people in the world, then your mind will always look for proof of that belief. But if you shift your focus, you'll start seeing opportunities everywhere. By embracing an abundance mindset, you open yourself to a world of possibilities. This is how life works when you let go of control, trust the process, and believe that what's meant for you will come naturally. As we reflect on the power of trust and aligned action, let's explore how letting go of control can lead to unexpected breakthroughs. Have you ever felt like you're putting in all the effort making the right moves, and yet nothing seems to be moving forward? You work hard, but still there's no breakthrough. Now what if, instead of panicking, you trusted that your work was enough? What if you focused on being excellent at what you do, building meaningful connections and allowing the right doors to open when they're meant to? This doesn't mean sitting back and doing nothing. It means stopping the constant need to control every outcome. You take smart, purposeful action and then trust that what's meant for you will come. Marcus Aurelius in his Meditations wrote, "Do what you must, and let what happens happen." This is the essence of aligned action. You focus on what's within your control, your efforts, your discipline, your mindset, but you don't obsess over the results. Because here's the truth. No matter how much you plan, no matter how hard you push, there will always be things outside your control. And the more you resist that truth, the more stressed and frustrated you become. So, how do you practice this in your daily life? First, get clear on your goal and take the necessary steps. Prepare, train, learn, and do your part. But don't be so fixated on the outcome that you miss the joy of the process. Second, let go of the need to control when and how the results show up. Accept that the timing isn't always up to you. Life unfolds in its own rhythm, and often the best things happen when you least expect them. Third, trust in your own resilience. Even if things don't go exactly as you planned, trust that you'll adapt. You'll grow, and along the way you'll find new opportunities that you hadn't anticipated. The path to success isn't always linear, and sometimes the detours lead to even greater destinations. At the end of the day, life isn't about controlling every outcome. It's about mastering yourself. The moment you shift your focus from chasing to aligning, from forcing to flowing, everything starts to fall into place. The Stoics understood this truth centuries ago, and now it's yours to apply. So take a deep breath, trust the process, and remember, real power comes from within. When you learn to trust yourself, your actions, and the timing of life, everything begins to align naturally. If this video resonated with you, there's another one on the screen right now that will take you even deeper into Stoic wisdom. Click on it and keep learning. And if you haven't already, hit subscribe so you never miss a new insight. Thanks for being part of Stoic Journal. I'll see you in the next one. This is exactly what the Stoics taught, that true power, peace, and progress come from within.